everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Jack Bigadou, also known as the Hood Sommelier. And sorry about the delay, having some technical difficulty with this new Apple update. As you can see, I'm using a different camera today. It went all berserk on me. If you're here, thank you so much for being here. This is probably the most exciting interview you guys are going to see me. This is my time. One time a year, I become a whiskey nerd. I become crazy. So bear with me today if you see me just going berserk. If you followed me for a while, you know I love Isla whiskey. I love single malt. So when you see me be excited today, don't don't worry. If you're joining, thank you so much. Bonsoir. Uh, Good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. If you're here, share this with your friends because this is the one chance we get this year to talk to someone directly connected to a distillery that is dear to my heart, and that's Bruichladdich Distillery. I've been a Bruichladdich fan for a long, long time. When I started sinking my teeth in single malt, and I knew that I love the peat. I love Isla whiskey. Bruichladdich was the first whiskey that I had so dear to my heart that I tasted Octomore and I felt like I saw heaven. I literally saw heaven and it came back. And since then, everybody knows me. I'm a big proponent to actually try some Octomore. They call it the impossible equation. I know more about Adam, the master distiller, that a normal person should know. So that's just what you need to keep in mind as we going through. This is my favorite distillery. I don't say this enough, but this I don't you don't hear me say this often, but this is my favorite distillery. Bruichladdich just happened to be part of Remy Cointreau, which also Westland or owns Remy Martin. And today I have the pleasure and the honor to have one of the most educated. Think about this. I follow this man on Instagram and I just follow him because I'm like, this guy knows a lot about whiskey. Coming to find out, he is a brand ambassador also for my favorite distillery and working for Remy Cointreau. He's been with them since 2017. He have a plethora, I mean, of knowledge. His name is Jason, your favorite cousin. Jason, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Hood. I'm the Hood Sommelier, and I'm happy you're here.
That was a hell of an introduction. Glad to be here.
His name is Jason Cousins, and the coolest name ever to be part of our tribe. We have the highest audience that you can see today. I'm looking at 20 people watching as we have at this point. If you're here, please share it. Please bring people in so we can talk. I shared this in the friend of Bruichladdich, so the friend of Bruichladdich may watch this as well and come in. So don't mess anything up. Everybody's watching you today. All the spotlight is on you. So thank you. Welcome to the show. Welcome to my hood, the Whiskey Hood, and please tell the people a little more about you.
Sure. So I kind of cut my teeth in the bar and restaurant scene, worked about 15 years in New York, running cocktail programs, doing some consulting, opening restaurants, opening hotel bars, and then moved into the brand ambassador side in summer of 2014. And then started working. My first trip to Isla was in early 2015. So I've been working on Bruichladdich now for going on 8.5 years. As the brand ambassador for the Northeast, covering New York, now covering the East Coast. So I'm primarily in New York, Chicago, Miami, but I also cover Westland Distillery, which as of 2017, as you referenced, is the sister distillery for Bruichladdich, the American single malt made out in Seattle.
All right, all right. So it's October. And in October is the only year I think we hear about Bruichladdich. Like we hear about them a little bit during the year. We hear about them within the Faish, at the Isla Festival, and then October comes and you can't get enough of Bruichladdich. So this year, what are the things that Bruichladdich put on the market? Now, I'm excited about it, but I'm sure people want to hear it from you more than they want to hear it from me.
Yeah, it's a stacked fall for sure. So the reason why we're here is tasting through the new Octomore series. I understand you have a new single vintage Port Charlotte as well.
Yes. So this year, I believe they released. I think it was early, uh, early July or August that they had the Isla Barley 2014.
Yeah, yeah. And then we also released a Port Charlotte PMC, which is a Pomerol cask.
Okay.
And that's a cask strength offering, also in the Port Charlotte line. And then next month in November, we're launching the 11th edition of Black Art.
Oh, so what usually are the sequence of what's released at Bruichladdich? Do we start with usually the Port Charlotte, or we have the normal expression, which are the Ladie and
Yeah.
But the PMC, when are those released? Are they released randomly, or is it once a year?
No,
There's
those are
one
usually
out?
early in the year. The cask exploration line, as we call them, typically early May, but it's also market dependent. So it's when you if where you are, I think you're in Nebraska, if
Mhm.
your state hasn't gone through the previous edition, then PMC kind of gets held up a bit. But generally speaking, the release globally is early May for the Port Charlotte cask exploration. And then as we get into the summer months, we trend more towards the unpeated Bruichladdich line.
Okay.
And that's something I want to bring up because it does get a little confusing. It's Bruichladdich Distillery Company that makes four brands. We make unpeated Bruichladdich. We make heavily peated Port Charlotte. We
Mhm.
make the world's most heavily peated whiskey series,
Mhm.
Octomore, and we also make the Botanist Gin. So there's four products in one distillery. But a lot of people will say Bruichladdich Port Charlotte. There's really
Mhm.
no such thing.
Mhm.
It's just Port
Mhm.
Charlotte. It's a horrible analogy, but it makes sense. It's like Coke that makes Sprite. You don't say Coke
Mhm.
Sprite.
Mhm.
It's just
Mhm.
Coke. So we get into the unpeated Bruichladdich season in the spring. And then we start releasing our barley exploration line. So you'll get things like our organic, our single vintage, Isla grown barley, all from farms, within a 10-15 mile radius around the distillery. And then our bare barley release, which is that 6-row heritage grain. And then as we move back in towards the fall months again, it's Octomore season, followed by Black Art.
And Black Art is at the end I'll ask you more about Black Art, because I've always wondered how does that come about, because I have one Black Art from 2020. I believe I have the Black Art of 2020, and it's just one of those things where Black Art always confused me. So I'm very curious to learn more about it. Now let's start by exploring the Port Charlotte. Tell us more about Port Charlotte.
Yeah, so Port Charlotte's our heavily peated line. In terms of the phenolic content, this is a 40 ppm whiskey. So if you think about ppms as kind of being like the IBUs for IPAs, bitter beers, just the level of the carbon acid, the smokiness that goes in the malt. Your typical Isla ppms like 25 to 35. I think Ardbeg gets up around 50 ppm. Kilhoman's around
Yeah.
55. So
Mhm.
this is 40. It's a heavily peated single malt. But what makes this different is Bruichladdich was built in 1881 as the first kind of commercial distillery on the island,
Correct.
and it was built with stills in mind for making whiskey going into blends, because blends were exploding at that time, late 19th
Correct.
century. It was all cutting edge technology. The tallest stills in Scotland at the time, which were soon eclipsed by Glenmorangie. But you get the idea that tall stills, that kind of creates that light floral elegant style, which was a stark difference from your typical Isla style.
Isla style,
So
yeah.
Port Charlotte was this experiment of running this heavily peated malt through stills that were made for making whiskey for blends. So
Wow.
that's kind of the concept behind it. And what makes this unique is the style of the peat. This is peat that's from the Highlands up in the Inverness, Aberdeenshire area. So you get more tree and grass content to it. It ends up being a kind of more campfire, dry peat smoke, more of
Correct.
that kind of barbecue, hickory mesquite style. If you're a
Hmm.
mezcal enjoyer, that's
Hmm.
kind of the same style of smoke. So
Like
that's
a
the
mezcal.
yeah. I mean, who doesn't? It's big right
All
now.
right.
We have a lot in common with mezcal, though, because mezcal, tequila, uh, that category is built on this idea of terroir or provenance,
Correct.
and that all makes sense for people that are into agave spirits. But for some reason, it hasn't quite translated over into the single malt Scotch side.
no one talks about terroir when it comes to single malt ever. You know, because people, you hear people that are in the industry talk about, they are proud. Some people are, they're very proud of Speyside barley, or they're very proud of Highland malt or whatnot. But no one's actually comes out and go, hey, this is my favorite type of my favorite type of area. You hear more like, oh, I like Highland whiskey, I like Speyside whiskey, but no one actually said, oh, I like the barley from here
Right.
specifically.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting.
Barley hasn't really entered the conversation like, say, agave and tequila, or for that matter, grapes and wine.
Correct.
Uh, Barley, for the most part, is a commodity. It's bred for yield, not for flavor. There's no laws on where you buy your barley to make Scotch whiskey, so you can buy barley grown anywhere in the world.
Correct.
And that's kind of how a lot of companies will look at it, as trying to kind of reduce their margins, so they can put out something that's consistent, but at a lower price point.
Correct.
But the thing is, though, if you have inexpensive barley, you're kind of at that point depending on your casks or your maturation to kind of take the edge off it. Because cheap barley at a young age tastes like cheap whiskey, which is why young whiskey has a bad reputation.
Correct.
The truth of the matter is, though, the younger the whiskey is, the more it speaks to the barley, as opposed to the older it speaks to the casks. So if you're going to go young and you want to showcase more barley character, that kind of light, peppery, green, grassy, citrus forward kind of flavor profiles, then you want to go a little bit younger. And we're finding that, say, barley grown in the Highlands, like Aberdeenshire, that area where we're sourcing for Port Charlotte, is very different in terms of flavor than what is grown on Isla, which is what you're tasting right now. An Isla barley that's 8 farms, all within a 15-mile radius around the distillery, from 1 year's harvest.
And if you hear we talking about Port Charlotte, to recognize Port Charlotte, it's not the one I'm tasting, but usually it's gray. Usually the grayish label, green bottle. That's what you see when it comes to Port Charlotte's. If you've seen Port Charlotte on your quote unquote shelf, that's what you're looking at. For me, the barley here is, I like it. Nose wise, a little bit of that mesquite, nothing really out of the ordinary. You don't even, for someone who's used to very heavily peated whiskey, the peat here is not too pronounced at all. It's just like a little bit of that smoke, a little bit of that, herbaceousness that you get from a little bit of peat. But for me, it's just straight to the point. It's 50% ABV and 100 proof. Really easy drinking. And for you guys that are watching right now, if you have any question, make sure you put it in a comment. We'll definitely answer it for you. Oh,
yeah. The style of peat for Port Charlotte is very well integrated. If you're familiar with the history of Bruichladdich, you'll know that the company was reopened by winemakers, and they saw this kind of element of terroir in these old Bruichladdich. But they also saw this unique kind of character to the flavors coming out of the distillate from these particular stills, that they could, and they thought they could bring whiskey to wine drinkers because it had structure, it had balance, had integrity. All the kind of elements were shining together. A lot of peated whiskey tends to kind of hit you upside the head.
Correct.
Like that peat, powerful kind of burning hospital flavor. This is very different than that. It is very well balanced and integrated.
Yeah. It doesn't, if you're a peat lover, this is an afternoon sip. This is not really a tense, I'm drinking something heavily peated. It's really afternoon sip, very easy drinking, straight to the point.
Yeah.
So if you had to, if somebody was exploring peat and was getting close to the Bruichladdich portfolio, where would you have them start?
Oh, they want to start with PC10.
Okay.
Right here.
Port Charlotte 10.
That's the benchmark peat for us. And that's actually, when we get into Octomore, we'll talk more about Port Charlotte, because Port Charlotte is essentially the bones of Octomore. But the nice thing about the Isla barley is it is that kind of expression of provenance. The barley growing on Isla tends to have more of a kind of salinity to it, more minerality. It's
Mm-hmm.
barley growing right up against the Atlantic Ocean. Bruichladdich means a gentle slope by the sea, and it is
Yeah.
right there on the inside of what's called Loch and Dal on Islay. So the casks are breathing in that salty Islay air. The barley is planted in fields with salt in the soil, salt in the air. That minerality translates into the whiskey, and it tends to kind of, like anybody who cooks, that salt accentuates flavor.
Correct.
So it really tends to kind of dial up a lot of the flavor elements there, especially the citrus coming from the barley.
I can definitely I usually identify citrus as brightness, and I can definitely kind of feel that brightness in the whiskey. Oh yeah. So here's the question then. Does that mean that there are things out of Bruichladdich that are not 100% Islay barley?
So on our release of Classic Ladie, it says Scottish barley, and it used to be in big letters. Now it's kind of moved to the back. It's Classic Ladie is the focus. But the idea being we wanted to kind of shine a light on the fact that all of our barley is coming from Scotland.
Correct.
That means at that time when I started in 2014, I think it was about 30% of our barley was grown in Islay. Now over half of our barley is grown in Islay.
Okay. Okay.
So Islay doesn't have, there's 20 farms there that grow for us. They don't have really the capacity to produce for all of our production. We put out 1.5 million liters per year, which is on the smaller side, but we do need to pull mostly from Scotland. That being said, as I said, there's no rules on where you buy your barley, so we wanted to make sure everyone knew it's 100% Scottish barley.
Okay, so does that also mean that somewhere you use some peat? Is all your barley all malted or peated on Islay?
No. Actually, we're the only distillery on Islay that doesn't malt on Islay. There's one malting facility. There's Port Ellen, which is a massive operation. The way it goes in the very early days, they weren't able to hold individual farms separate. No one had really come to them saying, we want to be able to trace this from grain to glass. It's a massive kind of production where it's barley in, barley out. You give them 50 tons of barley, you get 50 tons of malt. It might not be from the barley you gave them. It's just barley in, barley out.
Correct.
So that, and we were also reopening on a shoestring budget, and they wanted money up front. We wanted terms. They couldn't do that. So anyway, we formed a partnership with Baird's out of Inverness, and Baird's malts all of our barley, and they're able to trace, again, grain to glass. They source from about 20 farms up in that area. So all of our malting is done outside of Inverness. That being said, we are planning in the planning stages. We were planning to have it done by now, but the pandemic's kind of threw a wrench in that. We're building a malting facility at Bruichladdich.
Okay.
When we open that, we're going to malt all of the Islay barley on Islay.
Okay.
We're very conscious of the kind of the carbon footprint involved with transporting all the barley off the island over to Inverness, malting it, and then bringing it back. We're very proud that we're the first B Corp certified single malt Scotch distillery.
That was my next question.
Yeah. So that's a big part of it, is trying to reduce that.
What does that mean?
Okay. So the easiest way to describe B Corp is think of Patagonia. That's probably one of the most well-known B Corps out there. The idea of a B Corp is a certification that every 3 years you have to hit a stringent list of criteria. We have to hit, I think it's at least 80 points out of 100. If you do that, you get the B Corp certified stamp, and that just means that you're using business as a force for good. You're putting people in line with planet and profits. So it's the highest terms in terms of your social responsibilities, your hiring practices, your environmental impact. All these things figure into this criteria, and that was our 2020 pandemic project, was getting that B Corp certification.
Yeah, I saw that, and is that the reason why at a certain point you guys were pushing for you could buy your Octomore with or without a tent, or your Bruichladdich product without a tent? The way you were shipping product also were more with organic matters, that paper that actually will come out. Let me see. I think something also about how you dispose of the malt after you've distilled. as well, to being environmentally conscious. I would say.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the tins, we're very conscious of the fact that a lot of these tins end up in landfills. So we wanted to give people the option to opt out, to take the bottle without the tin, and we're eventually moving all of our whiskeys towards no secondary packaging.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But
Let,
hey, rising tide raises all ships. Other distilleries are taking note. I think Maker's Mark just got a B Corp certification.
yeah.
That's fantastic. So we're one of now, I think, 5,000 B Corps worldwide.
That's a big deal. Let's come to my the highlight of the day. Octomore. So every year, this is the 14th edition, I believe, right?
14th edition.
Yeah. 14th edition of Octomore. Octomore 14. The world's most heavily peated whiskey. If you never had Octomore, I feel bad for you. That's all I'm gonna say. I feel bad for you, especially if you like single malt. I've never met anyone that have tried, not to throw anybody out there, but let's go into Isla. You go into Isla, you try Bunnahabhain, you're trying Ardbeg, you're trying a Lagavulin, you're trying Laphroaig, and I've never met anyone that I've poured Octomore to that had been a fan of any of those brands I just listed, and they didn't go, holy shit. That I've never met, it never happened. Every single person that I've ever poured Octomore to that loves Isla whiskey was like, how in the Lord's name I've never tried this whiskey in the past. Now I can list reason why people haven't tried it, but obviously it's limited. It's once a year. It comes out and it's out there, right? And the people that know. I literally this weekend, before we got into this week, a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, dude." I'm like, "What? Do you know that is already here in Nebraska?" I'm like, "What?" It's like you don't need to ask. Octomore is here. And I'm like, "Ooh, okay." So I'm very excited to try this. If you guys are watching this now, or this is your first look at it, this is the new Octomore. If you're a fan of Octomore, obviously they spruce it up a little bit. Bottles design did not change or anything, but the packaging design actually changed. New color scheme coming in. So tell us more about this year's Octomore.
Yeah, so 14th edition, and for a while we were tracking with the same number as the iPhone. So this year we released the rose gold tin.
Yeah.
Like you would in an iPhone. But no, you made a good point. A lot of people haven't tried it and wouldn't try it. And the reason why a lot of people don't try it is literally written on the bottle. So this is 5 years old. This is 59.6% ABV. So roughly proof. And we're at 128.9 phenol parts per million. So technically 3 to 4 times what you see in Port Charlotte or Laphroaig.
Right.
So it's 3 reasons why it's undrinkable. It's too young, it's too strong, and it's too peaty. People see that, and that's what they expect.
But the level of transparency you guys use, right? You would think for whiskey like this, you mask it or you will turn it. You kind of hide a little bit of things so you mix it more. I mean, think about it. Everything about Octomore says stay away from it. Price point. Limitation as far as distribution. Like you said, 5 years old, very young, heavily peated, and and obviously high proof. So I mean, anybody that's like red flags, get away. But to the word surprise, I'm surprised every year I don't just sit down and see a bunch of awards coming out for Octomore. I really
very niche whiskey for sure. It makes up less than 10% of the whiskey we produce at the distillery. And I know you taste a lot of whiskey. You know a lot of whiskey. What blows my mind on this is that 120 proof. You don't have to kind of sneak up on the glass.
Nope.
Slowly. You can just kind of bury your nose in there, and it doesn't set you back.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So for people that don't know, Octomore usually come in three segments, um, in three parts. So right now we are gonna try the first one, which is the Octomore 14.1. And the level of let's take a moment and give it up to the team at Bruichladdich for transparency, right? You guys are very transparent.
Yeah.
This is you even say the type of cask he was in. You said everything you need to know is on that bottle. Even if you're a newbie, there is nothing you need to know about it that is not on the bottle. So tell us a little bit about 14.1.
So the first number, as we said, the 14, that's that year's edition. Peating is not an exact science. It's a room full of smoke. So every year we get what we get in terms of phenols. Now, as I said before, Port Charlotte's kind of the bones of Octomore. It's actually kind of the other way around. We get 40.0 phenol parts per million, or a malter is able to get a specified level of phenols by malting and getting as much peat as they can get, and then bringing it down to the ordered specification with unpeated malt. So barley that's been dried with hot air. So the question was, well, has anyone ever distilled with that barley that's at the max strength that hasn't been cut? And they told us, no, you couldn't do it. So if you tell somebody at Bruichladdich they can't do something, what they're going to do is they're going to try it.
They would do it.
So that was the experiment. So this is the 14th edition, 128.9 phenol parts per million. The 0.1 is sort of the reference, if you will, the benchmark for that year's release. We think of an Octomore as an experiment. Every experiment needs a control. So that's what the 0.1 is. So it's 5 years, first fill American oak. So think bourbon casks or Tennessee whiskey barrels, but first fill American oak. And what I love about Octomore is you expect a big peat punch in the face. It's not there.
This is not even fair. This is not fair.
Yeah, the peat is all bound up in the alcohol and that strength. So it's sweet.
If you're watching right now and you like peat and you like cask strength whiskey and you like those notes, it's like a beautiful, for me, when I describe a peated whiskey, we all already know the peat is there. But right now, I'm walking in a garden of roses with some sweet melons, a little bit of that sweet peach, fig, very, very sweet on the nose. It's just, just a little bit of that herbal tea note on the nose, but it's just a bunch of sweetness. Remind me of that nice. I describe those notes as peach cobbler. That's the best way to describe that. And the taste wise, on the front, nice caramel notes, almost that burnt caramel notes right on the front. And mid palate, it hits you with that ginger kind of spice note. And we get to the back there. And the finish even is not as long as you would expect it because of the proof. The finish is just right on point.
Yeah. The nice thing about Octomore is it's so complex. Every time you go back to the glass, you're going to pull out something new.
Oh, my God.
The melon, the peach, the apricot, those are classic Bruichladdich flavors. They're in classic Ladie or unpeated. They're in Port Charlotte. And it is, again, it's running this super heavily peated malt through stills that put out that light, floral, elegant style with nice kind of bright fruit flavor. But you just sit there, you unpack this. There's just so much going on.
Oh, my God. So one of my gift to myself every Christmas is literally Christmas night. Usually here it snows. Is to pour me a very heavily peated. It just so happens usually it's always Octomore, and just sit outside. Put a jacket on, just sit outside. That cold weather that hits you, and that warmth that comes from those beautiful sweet notes of Octomore is like bliss for just that. It's because Octomore is not something you just shoot back or just drink. You almost have to sit with it. And if you have that little fire next to you and you just sit there, it brings the campfire image all together. Now let's add a little bit of water to it. I told you you're gonna see me as Bill Bill Nye the science guy today, because when I'm drinking Octomore, I'm breaking it down. I have some lark fire here from Isla, wild water. That's how particular I am about Octomore. I don't put any water in it. All right. Okay. Those ripe fruits, very ripe and juicy. It's almost, I hate to use this word, but it's gushy. Yeah. in the senses of Octomore 14.1 is what we just tasted. And this is, like you called it, the control. So it is in ex-bourbon cask. Yes. That they have these are in. So all ex-bourbon cask. Yeah. So those peppery note, those caramel, those sweet notes are quite expected. Tell us about the 14.2, which have now those new beautiful, elegant design that you guys are seeing right now. Is a 14.2, just beautiful elegance on this one. I didn't expect the bottle to be black. I really expected the bottle to actually come out and look a different color, because I was like, oh my god, this can is just very elegant.
Well, the 0.2 series is one of the positives that came out of the pandemic. It used to be duty-free only. So that meant you could only buy it in an airport.
Really?
Yeah, the 0.2 series never came to the U.S. before COVID.
Oh my god! And COVID, one of the craziest thing that you guys did as well, something that you guys were pioneer at, which I applaud you guys on, is during COVID. That's when the announcement of 11, I believe, 11. Yep. At that time, I was able to actually buy it straight from Isla to actually come here. And I was so happy. I'm like, that's what you call innovation. More distillery on Isla should follow your lead and selling. I think after you guys started doing that, Bunnahabhain followed and other distilleries started following, because you guys were the first people to ship straight to the people in the US.
Yeah, I mean, Isla still is very isolated. It's hard to get to and from the island. There's 2 flights a day. There's a couple ferries. So getting stuff off the island can be difficult. It's also difficult to bring things on the island. That's why all the other major distilleries will age all their whiskey on the mainland and bottle all their whiskey on the mainland. You know, for the most part, you're distilled on Isla, then the next week you're in a tanker and the raw distillate's being sent out for central aging outside of Glasgow. For us, an Isla whiskey is not just a flavor profile. It's about the provenance, the people, the place. So we age all of our whiskey on Isla. 100% of all our whiskey is aged on Isla. All the water that we're used to bring it down to bottling proof comes from Octomore Farm. And then we're bringing all those bottles, empty bottles, caps, labels, everything on the island gets filled, bottled on the island, and shipped back off. That's very difficult.
That is a lot. That is a lot of work. As you can see, Port Charlotte is the beginning for most people. When you come, Peter, welcome to the show. Like I say, for anybody that is here, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask your questions. Before he knows so much of. Jason is a whiskey enthusiast before he's actually a brand ambassador. So he can nerd out as much as we can. Okay. So don't feel free to jump in and ask any question you want. So tell us about 12.3. Beside the beautiful, elegant new can that comes with it, what should we know about this expression?
So the 0.2 is our cask exploration line. So essentially, it's the same malt that came back from our maltsters at 128.9 phenol parts per million. Half of that, I don't actually know the proportions, but most of it went towards the 0.1 in 5 years in American oak. This split at the warehouse and went into wine casks. So this particular,
which one?
Oh yes, this maturation profile is a mix of Amarone casks, both first and second fill, like roughly 60%. and then 40% first fill Oloroso hogsheads. So
Look at
with
that color.
Amarone, you're going to get that dried. I mean, I can expect dried fruit, fig, date, prunes. That's that kind of like Northern Italian style from the Amarone. Oloroso is a little drier, nuttier, more that kind of like manchego cheese kind of element to
Yeah.
that dry
Yeah,
sherry.
and that's what I was about to say. You got that. You
Yeah.
got that cheesy. What do you call it? You got that cheesy figgy. Here's the best way to describe this. The nose on this is a charcuterie board. That's the best way to describe this. The nose on this is a beautiful, cheesy, fruity, a little bit savory and meaty charcuterie board. That's the best way to describe this flavor.
It's a relatable. That's a relatable tasting note. It makes sense. You know what that tastes like.
On those charcuterie board, you see the fig there. You got the pickle there that give you a little bit of that brininess. You got a little bit of that, those sliced pork, and you obviously have those crackers on the side.
Yeah, biscuity, bready element.
Correct. This is a beautiful charcuterie board.
And every charcuterie board benefits from a small amount of like strawberries, fruits like that.
Yeah.
This has a 1-year finish. So it's 4 years in the Oloroso and Amarone casks with a 1 year, after it's vatted, 1 year finish, or acing as you would call it, in a Pauillac cask, a first fill Pauillac cask. Now that type of wine for me brings that bright kind of strawberry, fruit element to the whiskey. So it's all tied together with those kind of bright red fruits. Yeah.
Dude, we're done. We're done. This is it right here. If you have the Octomore 14, if you have the line, skip 1. Get to 2 right away. Start with 2. Good.
Well, you haven't tasted 3 yet. So.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, those wine casks bring a whole, now, I confession time. My favorite cask for peated whiskey is a Bordeaux cask.
Okay, I've got something for you.
That's my favorite peated cask, and I will tell you right now, this is beating the Bordeaux cask.
So, have you tried Octomore 8.3? That is the record holder.
Yes. So my friend Steve here says the same thing all the time. So when the first time Steve met me, he's the reason why I discovered Octomore was back in end of 2018 into 2019. Steve said, "Hi, my name is Steve Nielsen, and I heard you like Scotch." That's how he introduced himself to me. And when another man walks to you and he put his hand in his pocket and trying to hand you something, you're like, whoa, buddy. I don't know what you got going on, but slow down here. This is not that type of deal. And he hands me Octomore 8.3, a sample, 1 ounce sample of it. I came home, sat on that sample for almost 2 months, and I opened it one day and I poured it. And I swear to God, when I had a pour of it, I saw a tear, like one single tear, come out of the side of my eye. That's how good Octomore 8.3 was.
Yeah, that's the record holder, 309.1 ppm. Has your Bordeaux cask in it, Scotteron, Burgundy, and Bordeaux cask and American oak.
I'm telling you right now, I don't know. I don't believe there's gonna be one that is at that level. But I'm telling you, Adam outdid himself probably on that one.
Yeah. So in terms of, I see Steve's question there about, we're going to have another Octomore approaching that level.
Yeah.
It is the kind of thing where we get what we get.
So is whatever the Rick House or the Rack House give you guys.
Yeah. And that's always measured. The phenols are always measured in the malt, and we use high performance liquid chromatology. I can tell you, I can't tell you what that is, but I can tell you how to say it. It is a scientific way of measuring the peat, but that's where my Bill Nye stops.
Correct.
So that 309.1 was in the phenols. We have hit high numbers since then. The next whiskey, the 0.3, is the 3rd highest phenolic count that we've hit on Octomore.
Okay.
I don't want to rush you through point two.
No, I just added some water to the point two. Steve has the 14. He has a set. Steve, open the point two. I guarantee you are going to actually have a field day tonight. All right, let's see.
You talked about favorite casks with peat. For me, I mean, I'm with you on Bordeaux, but I think Sauterne, sweet fortified wine casks, for me, that takes the cake. I love the combination of heavy peat and like candied kind of bananas and
maybe they didn't do it right, but there's a distillery that did Sauterne cask with peat, and it came out almost as soapy. And I was like, I don't know about Sauterne cask because I love peat and wine cask. Like, people don't understand. For me, is the combination. Is a combination of peat and a specific type of cask. Like, when it's done right, is perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you right now, 14.2. That so far is killing the game. Doesn't need any water. I added water to it. It only dilute the effect. Unlike 14.1, where the water actually open it up a little more. I feel like those wine casks don't really need that much additional water. They kind of naturally kind of give you all you need out there.
They tend to be lower ABV because they're larger casks, so you get more angle share. So this comes in at 57.7, 2 degrees lower than the 0.1.
The 0.1, yeah. And man, oh man, I thought last year Octomore was impressive. So I tell my friends all the time, so I have to, one thing you may not know, which will be a fun fact for you to tell later on, is Islay, the same way Islay is set up. I've never been there, but I know the geography of Islay and how to have peat bugs. And one of the things that we have also on the northern side and part of the southern side of Togo in Africa is we also have peat bugs, because the ocean water come into the delta, which actually creates a bunch of peat bugs. Those peat bugs are usually used instead of harvesting the peat to actually use it for fire, like in Islay. They use it to actually, when they make pots. So rainwater is usually collected in the villages. So when they make pots, where every hut or every home have a water pot in the room, where if a guest is there or you at night, there's no refrigeration in those areas. So they make clay pots. So to make the clay pot, they use that peat to seal the clay pot.
Huh.
So when we go during the summer, we usually go to the village, visit grandma, visit uncles, or just your parents want you to actually go learn more about the village or where you're from or where he grew up. When you go there and you wake up and you need water, they give you water out of those, literally water out of those clay pots. So the water tastes herbaceous, just like peat, because that's what they seal those pots with. So a lot of African people, especially from West Africa, when they drinking peated whiskey, they all use the same expression. Oh, this is clay pot whiskey. Because it's those clays that, those pot that were sealed with that peated, clay down there is what we used to as kids, because we can smell that peat in it. So that's the way they describe it. So the first time I opened an Octomore in a party that we had at an African party, that bottle didn't make it home. Everybody, every single person out there said, "Are you sure they did not use water from back home?" That's the first question, everybody, because they could relate immediately to that flavor profile of the type of peat that was used and malted and whatnot. So honestly, a lot of African people love peated whiskey. I'm sure African people make probably 30% of the money of Lafroy and Lagavulin, because that's all they drink. But the first time I introduced them to Octomore, I have a friend of mine who always he texts me every year. He's like, dude, I want all three. I don't care how much it is. I just want them. I was in France, June 2022. Stop in France. Two of my African friends brought samples of Octomore. The man went, what type of idiot am I that this is in Europe and I never knew about this? I'm gonna go. This is what I'm drinking moving forward. It is. I don't think if I ever get a chance to meet Adam one day, I would tell him, you don't know what you're doing to some people, because for some people, drinking Octomore is going back to their childhood. You bring in childhood memory. You are affecting these people. You're making them happy. It's not just because they're drinking whiskey, but they look forward to that profile to bring him home.
That's what this is about. It's meant to be experiential. We want whiskey to be that kind of experience.
Yo, absolutely. Let me jank up my camera again. I got too excited. Octomore got me too excited. But yes, that's pretty much what we're dealing with at this point. So as we continue, I just want to thank you and make sure that you know that I really appreciate you taking your time to do this with me, because
my pleasure.
I've been looking forward every year. I say, I cannot wait to get on Isla myself. I cannot wait to visit and, meet the team at Bruichladdich and really shake some hand and really tell them what exactly is it that,
well, there's a lot of hands to shake there. If you go to Bruichladdich, I think I said it before, it's like a functioning museum. It's like you can't. There isn't a question you can't ask. There's nothing you can't take photographs of. I've been to plenty of distilleries where they're saying, don't look in here, don't take photographs, put your phone away, all that stuff. It's not like that at Bruichladdich. It's very easygoing. And because we're doing everything on the island and we're still using that 19th century equipment, there's no computers in the distillation at all. We're the largest private employer on Isla. So we have roughly 100 people working for us at Bruichladdich.
So I heard, and I want you to actually confirm this for me. Bruichladdich is one of the rarest distilleries still in the world that, at least in Scotland, that does not use modern technology to determine or, to cut the head, the tails, and the heart. He literally is experience based. Is that
sight,
true?
Smell, and taste.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. And it's also one of the few tastings I've been through where they tasted me through everything from start to finish, head to tails. Everything was relatively clean. I mean, of course, as you get towards the end, you get that kind of wet dog kind of flavor. It's got kind of like a nail polish remover in the head, but still, I didn't go blind. It's still very, very clean. And that's what makes Octomore so special. People see that level of phenols, they see the ABV, the youth of it, but it's about kind of starting with more so we can edit it down to less.
Correct.
If that makes sense. It's like starting with a bigger block of marble so you can get a more kind of detailed, nuanced sculpture. So our typical first cut between the heart and the heads is about half an hour in, which is still pretty long. That's on the Bruichladdich and Port Charlotte side. Octomore is pushing more 40, 45 minutes in. So the heart on Octomore is very, very narrow. So that way we can retain the phenolics, but we lose the volatility, and it keeps that kind of classic, light, floral, elegant style that Bruichladdich is known for.
14.3.
Yeah.
This one, 14.3 is 214 ppm, 61.4. That's a lot.
So this one comes in it doesn't really show. There we go. The frosted bottle.
Yeah.
Because the 0.3 series, unlike the 0.1 and the 0.2, which are Scottish barley, the 0.3 is the Isla barley version. But what makes this special is it's not only the single vintage, but it's a single estate. So this is all barley from one farm, from Octomore Farm, about a mile away from us. So James Brown has been a partner with us since the beginning. He supplies us with all the water. We were using Isla spring water to bring everything down to bottling proof. He's been a fantastic partner. So we named this whiskey from his farm after his farm, and this is exclusively James's barley.
So this barley is different from the other two barleys.
Yeah, which is why it has a different ppm rating to it. So
Right.
it's been peated separately.
And this nose is, whoa. I won't even say it. It is a toss between sweet and so my friend Steve and I, we always do the weirdest thing with our peated whiskey. So
yeah,
we'll rub it, get into it. Since you said this is a different type of barley, Steve have a big old beard like Santa Claus. So he literally will put it on his beard to smell it for a while. Oh, good God. Okay. Whoa. A little more licoricey on the back.
Yeah.
Compared to
our charcuterie plate, I got that kind of dill.
Correct.
Like, not dill pickle, but like dill the herb.
Yeah. Very herbaceous. Very much so herbaceous. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is a little much more different than 1 and 2 for sure.
Yeah, this is a combination of first fill American, but then also second fill Bordeaux casks.
Yeah, the front drags you in. The back has a little punch to it with a little bit of that licoricey kind of that punch in. Whoa. Yeah, it takes a minute. It's almost like that burnt. Is yeah, the 14.3, like he's saying, have a little bit of that buttery essence when you come in, but the finish on that has a little more of that licoricey, herbaceous black tea type of type of feelings to it. Let's add a little water to it and see where we get. Okay.
What I love about Octomore in particular, all of our spirits are non-chill filtered. We don't do any chill filtration. Has all the fatty acids retained. It's natural whiskey, no caramel color added. Octomore in particular just coats the back of your mouth. You said it before. It was gushing. It does. It makes the back of your mouth water.
Oh yeah. A little bit of water in that, and you get all the notes that you need out of it. If you're somebody who doesn't like the sweet notes, like over sweet note on whiskey, and you like more of that kind of that, and that Bordeaux, that wine cask makes it dries out the middle of your palate right away.
Yeah.
Like right away you feel that dryness. So if you're more onto the dry side of things, this is for you. If you're not more on the dry side, you want all those caramel notes and those sweeter note, 14.1 will be for you.
Yeah.
14.1 will be for you.
Yeah, I always find the 0.3s to be livelier and more expressive, a little more kind of focused in the flavor.
And complex too.
Yeah. That's the salinity I was talking about earlier. It just kind of dials everything up.
Right.
And this particular one for me, I definitely get the kind of like dried red fruits, like dried cherries on the back end. But for me, the mid palate, it is bright, fresh. And you were talking about earlier that kind of like, peach, lychee, kind of honeysuckle, like stone fruits, summer fruits, but a little biscuity and bready.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to pick a favorite one.
Oh, I know my favorite.
0.2.
Yes. So for me, when it comes to Octomore, if you've been an Octomore fan for quite a while, I don't know if Adam does this on purpose. but he always it's almost like an Easter egg. That's how I feel. I've tried last year. We were with him on a live. I think I don't know, Jason. I think you were
I
on
was
it
on it,
last
yeah.
year. Yeah, last year when we were, I asked the question: is this a crescendo? Did you do this on purpose? Did you just go tease, tickle, gotcha? That's kind of what happened. But I will tell you right now, this year he went completely out of the way. So if I had to choose something that I can, by order, what I will actually go for me, 12.1 will come first. 14.2 will come first. 14.1 will come second. 14.3 will come third. That is that. But last year, it was the complete opposite for me. 14.3 was first. 2 was next, and 1 was last. The year before that, on the 12, I was like, no one can tell me anything about 12.1. 12.1 is the winner. And everybody was like, "Oh, you crazy. That doesn't make no
12-2
sense."
for me. So that was a
Right,
turn
right,
cast.
right. And then we get to 11. And 11, if you say anything about 11.3, we are fighting. We are, you and I are, and Steve and I sat here in this basement. You see, he said, the whole Octomore, which your favorite toss up between 7.3 and 11.3. 11.3, yeah. Steve and I drove, we were in Colorado and we found 11.3. And I was like, Steve, you and I get in this bottle. I'm getting 11.3. 11.3 was like you couldn't tell me nothing about 11.3. 1 and 2 this just were good, but they didn't shine. So every year I feel like the fact that he experiment almost and anchors almost something new or a new barrel or a new, almost like a new experiment in, keeps you guessing about what does a peated whiskey do or react like
Yeah.
in a different cask. So he's keeping the series alive. He's not boring us, right? It's like, oh, another, same thing. I'm loving that. If there's one thing somebody that is afraid of Octomore needs to know, what would that be? Or what would be the one thing that you want someone who's afraid to get into Octomore? What would you want them
So
to
in
know?
one line, I would say Octomore is an iron fist and a velvet glove. It's not what you think it is. It's an experience, and it's meant to be enjoyed, and basically sort of cast off any preconceptions that you might have about what a peated whiskey is, and just open your mind to something new. That's what Octomore is for me. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, Adam Hannett, our head distiller, uh, we have almost 100,000 casks. 97,000 casks was the last number I saw, aging on Isla. That's all within a 10-minute walk for Adam. And at the end of the day, we treat this distillery more like a kitchen than a factory. There's no set recipes. We just gotta taste a little bit of this, a little bit of that. How would this work? Adam has that kind of creativity. He's able to kind of go wherever he wants and pull casks and put together something fantastic. And every year, as you said, it's not boring. Something
It's
new,
not.
something expressive.
It is not. Every year it's interesting. Every year I look forward to it. Every year I break the bank just to make sure that I have one. And every year I tell myself, I say, well, this may be the last year that I get it. And the following year, I'm like, you know what? I need it. I want to try it. And I will tell you what, a lot of great things are happening at Bruichladdich. I appreciate you just telling us a little bit about it. If you're an Isla whiskey lover, you like a Voulin, your Lafroig, I would say continue the exploration of Isla and get to Bruichladdich and really just take a moment and just look for, just try it. Give them a try. There's something particular about what you try at Bruichladdich that is not like every other distillery. They're the weird kids of whiskey. They are. And
Definitely.
they're more like that kid you want to know because you may be best friend. You may just be best friends for life. That's how I feel. Um, I'm gonna shift a little bit. I know we're talking Octomore today, but there is a whiskey also in America that you are, Brendan Bass. I saw you. What you just came from where? Seattle, or you're somewhere in?
Yeah, I was out in Seattle in early June, visiting the distillery there. I've been out to Westland Distillery, which is the sister distillery for Bruichladdich, making American single malt. Been out there a couple times, but I just had Tyler Peterson, who is our distillery manager. He won Distillery Manager of the Year this year, 2023. Awesome. From Whiskey Magazine. Just had him out on the East Coast, kind of touring around, and we're hoping that in a matter of weeks, that American single malt actually passes through the TTB, the federal government, and becomes
It will pass through the TTB.
protected form of identity.
There's too many forces in play.
Yeah.
It will pass through the TTB.
So we're excited about that. Very excited.
It's I just did my 5 favorite American single malt, all that impressed me on Instagram. And Westland is one of those whiskey that I couldn't really. I will tell you right now, Westland is one of those things. I'll tell you when I actually procured my first bottle of Westland back in 2018. And guess what? I never touched it. It just sat at the back of the cup. I'm like, what does American single malt even taste like? It was just one of those things that I bought a package thing. And when I opened this whiskey and it was peated and I tried it, I'm like, oh, it reminded me of a profile of a whiskey I know. Right. And I realized, oh, okay. Same company, a lot of things similar happening there. So I would tell you what, you guys are also one of those distilleries to be revered. You in American single malt, you guys are keeping kind of the problem that is happening in American single malt is a lot of whiskeys are just they're shooting by the hips, right? A lot of distillery just shooting by the hips, hoping that they give you something that you will like. But Westland was, you know what? It reminded me more like, oh, I don't feel like Scotch today. I'll still drink Westland, right? That's how we felt, and a lot of they're keeping the traditional ways that I want to see or I want my whiskey to be, and they're doing it. So they're I'm hoping that I heard that they have private castrant, cast that they have out there, but they keeping it on your side of town and on the DC side and on the coast side. So I'm hoping that those come more on the market so we can see more of that, how the American quote unquote, temperatures and weathers affect that whiskey and see how that reacts.
If you're looking for a single cask out in Nebraska, hit me up with some people. I'll send some samples out. Make it happen,
dude. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. American single malt is one of those things that I would love to see what cask are out there. And hell, you don't need anybody in Nebraska. I'll put it up with sailbacks and we'll have it in the store and people will be happy to buy it. Those single casks are something that I always believe that are different. They're new. I did it with Virginia Distillery, which also just like Westland keeps some authenticity. So it's one of those things that I really really appreciate that you guys are bringing some traditionalism, Scotch traditionalism to American single malt, and I cannot wait to see what happens. So if you guys don't know, his name is Jason Cousin, and he definitely see Steve is excited already about a single cask. So he is the East Coast, right? East Coast brand ambassador of Remy Cointreau. Do you see my Cointreau hat? It's my favorite Cointreau hat. Anything Remy, anything Westland, anything Bruichladdich, this man can talk about. And I will tell you guys right now, these are the people on the grind every day that are willing to do the work and talk about the product. So I urge you, what is it? Are you Whiskey Ultra?
Yeah, at Whiskey Ultra, whiskey in the Scottish sense.
Yeah, whiskey without the E. Ultra is Jason on Instagram. You can follow him. He will post about all the event that he does. And if you are listening to this or watching the recast and you are on the East Coast, don't be shy. Tell your bar, tell your favorite whiskey spot. Hey, we want to see more of Westland here, or we want to see more Bruichladdich here, so they can actually bring in more of that quote unquote products in. A lot of places already have the Remy account, so they would love to Jason, I'm sure, put up a nice and cozy event where he can have you try some whiskey and try some amazing thing.
For sure.
I'll put in a comment. People are asking about your IG, so don't be surprised if you flooded on IG. It's whiskey without the E.
Yeah.
Ultra. I'll be him. I'm putting it there. It's whiskey ultra. So he'll be more than happy to. Don't ask him too many crazy questions.
No, ask me anything you want. Ask me.
But I will tell you guys right now, no, we can't compare. We can compare this whiskey to Chattanooga whiskey. Unfortunately, that's my personal beef against Chattanooga whiskey. I want to see more of people keeping the traditional way of making single malt versus actually trying to reinvent the wheel. Any last comment, last word that you have for the whiskey people that that they need to know, something that you believe they need to know? The last word is yours.
I don't want to leave Stephen hanging. He did ask about my favorite Octomore, and
yeah, he did ask. He said that the toss is between 7.3 and 11.3.
So I have a dozen or so Octomores in my top 5. That's kind of the running joke of the distillery. But for me, the one that got me into Octomore was Octomore 6.3. That was my first Isle of Barley Octomore. Beyond that, 8.3 is legendary. 10.4, the 3-year-old virgin French oak. Octomore OBA, Octomore Black Art, mind-blowing. There's so much good stuff in that Octomore lineup.
Oh my God, I forgot. Tell us about Black Art. I mean, I did not even ask. I'm sorry.
There's not much to tell. That's the thing about Black Art. You said it before. We're all about transparency, right? We'll put the name of the farms on the bottle, tell you what the casks are. You can take a bottle of classic Ladie. You can go to our website. You can punch in the batch code, and you get the exact cask by cask breakdown, where the barley was grown, what barrels it went in, whether it's first fill, second fill, wine, whatever you want to know about making it. Black Art's the one whiskey where you say, you know what? We tell you nothing.
Okay.
That comes from Jim McEwen.
Well, I'm not crazy. I am not crazy. So here's my beef with Black Art. So I spent, and this is the first time you're going to see some resistance in this interview. I spent a bunch of money. I got the Black Art. I had a taste. And I hate to say it. I'm sorry. I was disappointed. I'm like, why is it that not only I don't know anything about it, I spent a lot of money, more than my favorite Octomore, by the way, on this one. And then somebody's like, oh, you need to try the 2017 Black Art, or you need to try the 2021. I'm like, I'm not going to spend another $500 to try this bottle, because I'm like, why is it that in all the amazing transparency that you put out there, you go, you know what? We are going to trick you on one of these bottles, and you just have to live by it. So tell me the mindset of Bruichladdich behind Black Art.
So there's two things. First of all, Black Art is a 180 from Octomore in terms of age, in terms of the flavor profile, the peating. Black Art's unpeated. So very different from that. I think you have probably a more exercised palate, right?
Yeah.
You're looking for a big flavor, big whiskeys. Right. Black Art's not that. Black Art's more like your It's more. It's more Pinot Noir than, say, Bordeaux or Barolo.
Correct.
But the origin of Black Art comes from Jim McEwen, who, if you know.
I know Jim.
He's the Mick Jagger of whiskey. He's a larger-than-life personality, legend in the industry. He was instrumental in reopening Bruichladdich And you can get the full story. There's actually a documentary film called Water of Life.
What of life? Yeah.
Good friend Greg Schwartz put together. That you can stream online. Scotch and Golden Dream, also you can stream that. Both kind of talk about Jim in length. But Jim basically was fed up with all the transparencies. Like, everyone wants to know, I'm putting everything out there. I'm Jim McEwen. There's a whiskey I tell you nothing about it, and you're going to drink it because it's fucking good. That's where Blackguard comes from.
I'm telling you what, somebody promised me, I don't remember, one of my followers said, oh, I have a Blackguard that you're gonna love. And I say, this is a $500 investment that you may or may not like. And I don't care what Jim said. Screw you, Jim. You're not gonna make me invest money into something that I'm gonna turn around and not like. So I became not a fan of Blackguard. Every time people will ask me, like, do you think I should pick up this Blackguard? I say, to your own risk. Don't ask me. I don't want to advise you on Blackguard because I don't know what is happening. So honestly, yeah, Blackguard have been a mystery, and I guess he was meant to be a mystery. So
it's really a testament to kind of the mystery of distillation, of blending. You know, the origins of distillation come from alchemy, you know, back in the 14th, 15th century. So that's really kind of like paying back to that. But really, it's the best casks that we have at our disposal. You know, the special casks are sort of squirreled away in the back from high-end chateaus, wines that we've been keeping, casks we've been keeping an eye on over the years. And then every year, Jim and now Adam Hannett will blend this together in secret and create their kind of magnum opus of that year. It's, if you think of it this way, if classic Ladie's Beyonce, Blackguard is our Sasha Fierce.
Okay, got it. That makes sense. I cannot be mad at that.
I am sorry that you got burned on a bottle. We'll have to find a way to get you to taste on some of the other ones.
That's what I'm telling you. I'm like, and I will rather buy 5 Octomore all over again than to spend money on Blackguard. I became a Blackguard hater, and I'm like, you know what? Nope. This whiskey is not for me. I feel like it was gimmicky. They got me on this one. I don't want to. But I will fight somebody for Bruichladdich. That's how much I love Bruichladdich. But the Blackguard, I was like, nope.
You might have gotten a lemon. I would tell you this, though, too. There's other whiskeys in the same age range. Blackguard's 25 to 30 years old, roughly. Yeah. There's other whiskeys that come out that are typically 3 to 4 times the price. So I would argue that Blackguard still is incredible value for a non-chill filtered, no caramel colored, spirit made with Adam Hannett's best intentions and Jim McEwen's, level of craft behind it.
I respect the idea. I respect it. You're not getting any buck from me on that. But for me, it's more like, if I don't know, I don't know. I'm too much of a nerd and a control freak, maybe, to actually, just be out there. I took a leap of faith and I got burned, and I'm like, nope, it's not happening. But honestly, Jason, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For coming on. If you guys are watching this or watching the recast, thanks for hanging out with us on the channel. You guys know life is not just about bourbon. Life is not just about one spirit. It's about, just like life itself and how large it is, it's about discovering all type of spirits. Either it's single malt, either it's bourbon, either it's rye, Armagnac, cognac, Calvados, gin, whatever it is that is your favorite spirit, enjoy it. But one thing I want you to keep in mind is exploration is the key of enjoying good spirit. If you don't travel, if you don't let your palate go on a journey, you're missing out on the whole thing. Jason, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you being here. For all of you guys that have been here and hung out with us, we at a certain point, we were almost at 50 people that were just watching at one time, and now everybody's like, okay, we heard you talk about it. I think I got a text that said, oh, you're tasting the good stuff without actually even we can taste it yet. So if you state have not gotten a chance to get the Octomore 14 yet, so just be on the lookout. Your state may have it soon. A place that sells a lot of Remy product will definitely have access to Octomore. and ask your store. Keep asking and force them to get more Remy product in so they can get more Octomore in, and you guys will get a chance to try it. As you can see, people that love it, and people that are not a fan, we'll wait till next year. We'll get you in. Thank you all for being here, and till next time, like they say in Scotland, we will say sláinte.
Sláinte. Appreciate you. Thank you. This has been great.